Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. That's eroscoaching.com. I work with individuals and couples in all topics relating to sexuality, including most of the time with couples who cannot have sex, do not know how to have sex, and basically have difficulties consummating their marriage. Today's show, we have my ex-classmate, Dr. Liam Captain Snowdon, and the title of today's show is Building Your Sexual Solidarity Team. Where do we place our attention in 2016 if we are invested in our collective erotic liberation? How can we play and celebrate failure as a way of decolonizing spiritual bodies and minds? How can we rub up against that will change the world? So more about my guest, Dr. Liam Captain Snowdon, co-teaches both the Canadian and American Sexological Bodyworker training. If you don't know about it, it's actually a very prestigious training that I've gone through. He is also on the faculty of the Institute for Sexual Education and Enlightenment in Hartford, Connecticut. In his private practice, he delights in working with motivated individuals and folks in a variety of relationship configurations to give them tools to communicate their desires, practice their boundaries, express their genders, and change their lives. Captain has had great success working online, face-to-face, and in groups. He offers packages of sessions, homework, and erotic adventure assignments that require commitment and have life-changing results. He has a long history working in kink, LGBTQ, and Poly Communities. He lives in Victoria, Canada, where he runs SPARC, the Sex-Positive Art and Recreation Center. He can be found up and down the west coast of Canada and the US giving talks, playing with sidewalk chalk, and looking for the next watering hole. You can find him on captainsnowdon.ca. That's Snowdon, Snowdon. So you can check out his website as we continue with the show. So welcome to the show, Captain.
Thank you so much. It's great. It's great to be here with you again, Martha.
Thank you. So we were ex-schoolmates, and this really has been the first time that we saw each other face to face just before the show on Skype, and he looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
It is really, really sexy. So what do you mean by sexual solidarity team? Like today, that's the topic of this show, and this is the first time I came across this term.
Well, the concept of sort of a solidarity team came through this fabulous supervisor, a woman who supervises therapists in Vancouver, named Vicki Reynolds, and she talked to us a lot about having a solidarity team as a therapist or as a frontline worker, so that we can reduce isolation in the work that we do, so we can hold ourselves accountable to the populations that we work with, and so that we can also, remember the dead and remember who has come before us and is there holding our backs and our descendants that are pulling us forward in the work. So I took this concept, borrowed this concept from Vicki and started thinking about the fact that I think we all need a sexual solidarity team, like a group of people, live, dead, imaginary, not necessarily people, could be plants, could be trees. Definitely for me, the ocean is part of my sexual solidarity team. It's like a group of beings that we can imagine are, invested in invested in our eros and our life force energy. Because I think a lot of us, sort of have a small team if we're partnered with one person, especially if we're heterosexual. It's like, this is the person who is on my sexual solidarity team. This is the person I go to have my needs met. And which is all, like, no matter how good a relationship it is, it's really hard for one person to meet all of another person's needs. So I can get really excited about, gathering, encouraging people and training people, and myself gathering a group of willing people and beings that want to hold me accountable and help me find adventures, go on adventures. Some of the people may be my ex-lovers, my current partners, definitely some of my ex-partners are like really, really strong members of my solidarity team now that some time has passed, and we're really now invested again in each other's erotic life and life force energy. And I also think, coming from because this show is also about spirituality, like, it doesn't have to be people who are really, actually exist. Sometimes when I think about my sexual solidarity team, I think of a sexually liberated version of my mother, like what she could have been if she had some education, if she had some support around sex. So that's sort of a bit of my vision about this. People who will advocate, people who will call us on stuff, people that will help us notice patterns that we're in that we don't want to be in. I think, maybe one. Can I tell one cute story about this? So I have a friend who was really clear that what they felt like that they missed out on their sexual development a bit was sort of high school makeout parties, like the high school makeout party, and that never having had a chance to attend one of those kind of things was really got in the way of their sexual development. Mm-hmm. So we got together and made a plan and gathered a group of people at a spiritual gathering, and had like a well-boundaried, a well-consented, a well-explained high school makeout party. Which involved spin the bottle and a couple other games that at the end, left everybody feeling like they had practiced their boundaries, had some fun, and left my friend feeling like, hey, that helps to complete some of the stuff that I didn't get to do along the way. So I think that's something that, we can do for other people being on their sexual solidarity team or their erotic solidarity team.
That's really awesome. I love that story, the high school makeout party. Did you guys get a closet?
There was bunk beds. We used bunk beds as a closet, yeah.
So cute. Oh my god, it's really, really cute. I now I get the idea of your sexual solidarity team. I get this, and I think it's a good idea. I think as a sexologist, I would be on the team of a lot of people, and you as well. I see myself being an informal person on the team for my friends, but I don't think I get the kind of credit or acknowledgement that I deserve. So I'm going to go and tell them, you don't realize I'm on your team. It's true. And actually, that was one of the reasons why I became a sexologist, because I was surrounded with friends who people consider frigid or low sex drive or not enjoying sex. And I was like, I want to help my friends. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And that's really what got me thinking, I want to do this work.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is one way sort of to formalize that process a bit. You can have gatherings of the live members of your sexual solidarity team. You could have like check-in phone calls with people. And sort of reduce the isolation of what it's like to be a sexual being in this world. I think this could really help. Mm. I mean, there's also, just along the lines of imaginary people too. I think about, those bracelets like what would Jesus do? I kind of think about, people on my sexual solidarity team. Like if I'm feeling nervous about a particular situation that I'm in, but I'm still like nervous and titillated and want to do something and want to move forward with it, I think like what would so-and-so do in this situation? And that would sort of help me. And also I think, I've got like some poets. I've got like Leonard Cohen and some other poets that I really admire on my solidarity team. And I think, what is this huge feelings of heartbreak that I'm going through? Well, what would this person on my team do with it? Oh, well, they would write poems. Maybe I'll write some poems.
I think that's really great. You basically channel wisdom from other places. And I don't know, we're coming up for a break, but I was really wondering, like, what some of the weird, some of the cool things that they have suggested that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the overwhelming message that I keep getting from like every member of my solidarity team, because they're starting to know me really well, is gather people. Because when I get isolated in it, that's when things don't go well for me around my eroticism and my sexuality.
I like what you shared just now about your ex-partners who now become on your team because they know you and then they are like your biggest cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm. Especially when enough time has passed that we've been able to work things out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pity sometimes when we cut off our ex-partners from our lives because, that there is still love. And yeah, so we'll talk more about Sexual Solidarity Team after this break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I've tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Hello, welcome back to Eros Evolution. We are with Dr. Liam Captain Snowdon, and we are talking about how you can build your sexual solidarity team today. And you can find him on captainsnowdon.ca. That's Snowdon, SNOWDON. And he has another website, that's somaticsupervision.ca. You want to check out that website as well for the awesome work that he's doing. So just before a break, we were defining and explaining what sexual solidarity team is about. And essentially, it's about visualizing in your mind's eye people, dead or alive, imaginary, and beings that are on your team, backing you up, supporting you with your sexuality. Kind of like what some people have in their mind's eye, a mastermind, that they go for advice, and this is a sexual team. So, Captain, I was just curious, when you talked about this team, are there any other ways you can apply this concept that you have?
Yeah, and definitely, I just wanted to speak to that website that you just announced. So that website, Somatic Supervision, is my website and services offering around supervision for people who do different kinds of somatic work. So a place to talk about how it's going with clients, what the challenges are, how you want to move your business forward, what are some of the blocks, where is it really juicy, how can we make it more of what you love and less of the things that you don't. So that's that work there. So
right. So what you're saying is that website is for people who actually do body-based work, and you support them in their work.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on your other question, I think that what are the other applications of a sexual solidarity team? I mean, my answer really is like whatever you can think of. You just asking me that question, I've thought like, wow, wouldn't it be a thing if one has had a sexual solidarity team for so long that those are the people who stand up for them at their wedding? Like, wow, like a whole community invested in the couple or the triad or the person in whatever arrangement they're in that's making a commitment, those people are already in sort of in the circle of that. The other pieces that I think about, which is, which a wedding is, which is something I've never had, but is the how I really feel, and a lot of my friends from various cultures, we talk a lot about how we're missing so many rites of passage now. And I think a sexual solidarity team can really help us develop rituals around places of, that we want movement in our life, whether it's like setting up a ritual where we actually jump from one side of something to another, or work with liminality, or work with the places in between things, and notice in our bodies where we want to go, whether we're we're burning things, whether we're all the alchemy that can be done in order to move things or bring things in or shift energies in our bodies and our lives. And I think a small group of people that is committed to each other's erotic expression can really, serve in that way too.
I really appreciate what you're sharing, because even though you just said this in a very short amount of time, there's a lot of depth and richness in all your ideas. Really, really beautiful. I just want to... sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, and before it starts to sound too... Pollyanna kind of ish. The other thing that I'm really invested in these days and have I've really learned from a lot of Aboriginal and First Nations folks in my life that have taught me is, the perfectionism and perfection has been a really colonizing force that wasn't here, at least on the land that my forefathers and mothers came and invaded and took over. There wasn't all these big concepts of things needing to be perfect and stuff. So I'm really excited about the work that we can do around sexuality and in sexual solidarity teams around celebrating failure, right? And celebrating how we failed, and celebrating how we've flailed and celebrating how things have been messy, because like messiness is interrelatedness in the world, right? Perfection is usually when we're on our own. So I'm really excited about figuring out ways of like decolonizing our bodies and our minds and our spirits by doing these things, so in community and being accountable to the people of the lands that we're living on and doing our work on.
I maybe you can explain a little bit more what decolonizing means, because I don't really understand this term. Sure,
absolutely, and I am learning all the time too. So what I'm thinking about is bringing into awareness and noticing and moving things out of our body that are forces that have been put on our bodies that we haven't made choices to have those things happen. So I think there's a lot of stuff that the media, and body image, and that men should look this way and women should look this way, and all that kind of basic stuff. But I also think, especially on the land that I live on, like, ever since the colonizers came over here, there hasn't been any consent culture. So when we talk a lot about consent, and we have to put it in sort of the context of that everything that is happening on this land is non-consensual too. So working in our solidarity teams, like, and noticing that, like, the systemic things that are happening, and being able to like break down and work with each other in ways that like all our liberation is possible, and not just the person who's sort of called the solidarity team. So that's the part for me about in 2016, how can we like invest in our collective erotic liberation, and not just the erotic liberation of people that have enough money to go to retreats and pay for like long-term coaching and counseling. Like, how can we? And I think the solidarity team is a way that we can show up for each other, that won't be quite as expensive, and show up for each other in all the different ways that we can in the world.
Mm. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you do often with your clients?
Yeah, well, I'm always trying to get my clients to, like, from the moment that I meet my client, I'm trying to make sure that they don't get hooked into an experience with me, that everything that we're doing is going to get them more of what they want out in the world. So I definitely work with them to like identify who's on their team, around sex, and who they can talk to, and who might, especially with men, I've found that my work with men has been a lot about saying, is it possible that you could go and talk to your dad about how sex was for him? And is there something you could learn there? And how could he be of a support? And how, just like really expanding out the support so that people don't feel like they're so alone on their journeys around sex.
Mm. Yeah. One of the big things that happens to lots of people is that they feel, because sex is a sensitive subject or taboo subject, they cannot talk to anyone. So having this team makes them feel very much more supported, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all a big experiment, like everything in life, and parts of it will work and parts of it won't, and take what you like and leave the rest.
Mm. Thank you. I love what you're sharing about also you were saying how life and things can get messy and it's all interrelated, and the importance of celebrating failure. I think we can be too hard on ourselves, and we see something that ends as failure, like, for instance, a relationship or marriage.
Yeah, I completely agree. I had some really smart friend of mine in our early 20s. I was like, I'm like, can we go have coffee? And he said, okay. And we went and had coffee, and I'm like, my relationship ended. I said, another unsuccessful relationship. And he said, did you have a relationship? I said, yeah. He said, then it's not unsuccessful. You had a relationship. It's like, oh. It's not a time span that makes something successful. It's the fact that it existed. And so that's kind of stuck with me a little bit. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, even the fact that there was a commitment to love, that says quite a bit.
Agreed.
Yeah, that day I was having a conversation with another friend of mine, and I say we don't realize what we're actually doing when we reach over, like say at a pub, and we tap someone on the shoulder and say, "Hey, bro, you're cool. I like you." We're actually letting that person into our hearts. We're actually saying, "I love you."
Just acknowledgement. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I also liked what you were sharing about your mom. I think of my mom as somebody who's on my team, even though a lot of people are quite squeamish talking about their parents and imagining them being sexual. I think knowing that my mom has always been quite positive about her sexuality actually makes me feel that she gave me a lot of permission to be sexual. So I like to think of her as being on my team and always wanting me to have a full and happy life. So I definitely see and pick up on the modeling that my mom does, even unconsciously.
Awesome. Sounds like you got lucky in the mother department.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, yes.
Yay.
So we're talking about a sexual solidarity team with Dr. Liam Captain Snowdon, and he actually teaches the Canadian and also American sexological bodywork training. He was just mentioning just before with me that the Canadian training starts on April 18th. This is a very intensive training that will change your life. Whether you're planning to do it as a profession or as an individual, this is life transforming. You may want to check out his website, captainsnowdon.ca. And we'll talk more with him after this break.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome to The Gathering Around My Kitchen Table on Equilarium FM, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join my guests as we integrate spirituality into everyday reality with vibrant conversations, inspired interviews, and my latest channeled guidance to inspire and brighten your day. I'm Claire Johnson, and together we'll be raising vibrations across the nations.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive, dedicated community. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to the show. You are listening to OMTimes Radio Network. Hang on. You are listening to Eros Evolution on the OMTimes Radio Network, and you can share this show with your friends right now by sending them the link omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, your friends will be able to listen to the show without needing to download any app. And as we know, some apps are not compatible with Android, and this makes it really easy and convenient for everyone concerned. Just before the break, I was talking about how Captain is going to be starting the Canadian Sexological Bodywork training, and you can find out the details by going to somatic sexeducators.ca. That's right, Captain?
You betcha. Or just Google Sexological Bodywork, and you'll be able to find all the different trainings all over the world.
Cool. And you also have another website, captainsnowdon.ca, and people will be able to find you as well on Facebook.
You betcha. Yeah, the American training, we're just about to start Module 1 of the American training. I think we've got a couple spots left in it, and it starts February 1st, and then the Canadian training starts on April 18th, and we're interviewing a lot for that now. So I get to teach with some amazing, amazing folks in both of those trainings.
You are amazing as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy that I met you at the Institute, and we did SexBot together at the training. And then I also met Deej in that training, and he runs the program for Australia. So I feel very, very honored and very connected, and it was just completely coincidental. The universe just brought me there at the right time, helped me to meet the right people, and now you guys are, my inspiration. I do think of you guys quite a bit, doing amazing work.
Back at you. Yeah. Isn't it? It's just so interesting. Like, there's so many amazing people, Annie Sprinkle and Carol Queen, and my friend Terry Chalky, who is really one of the people at the centerpieces of the work around ecosexuality. She said to me, I don't know how many years ago now, maybe 15, Captain, what the hell is up with you and sex anyway? And that kind of started all of it, right? Mm-hmm. Just like one person asked this question point blank, and sort of everything cascaded from there. So I'm so grateful for community and friends and people calling me out on stuff.
Yeah, so for listeners out there, SexBot obviously did quite a lot for me in my personal transformation, personally and professionally. How has SexBot, Sexological Bodywork, helped you or support you in your sexual exploration?
Ooh, good question. So when I was going to school getting my doctorate in human sexuality, people were like, okay, you got to take the Sexological Bodywork training. Taking the Sexological Bodywork training was like my gift to myself for finishing my doctorate. So, and as soon as I started reading the materials and practicing the work, I was like, oh, this is home. This stuff is in the body. This is where I've always wanted to be able to go. I've always, having been a counselor before that and working with street kids and working with other marginalized folks, I knew talk would only get us so far, and people telling their stories over and over and over again would only got things so far. So there being modalities out in the world where we can do consensual touch, we can teach people about their bodies. Myself as a transgender person who was born female and has transitioning. None of these words actually work for me, but as somewhere around male now, which is a bit more comfortable. But I still believe there's as many genders as there are stars in the sky. But so sexological bodywork, helped me, stay alive, stay in my body, learn about my changing body, appreciate my body, and really sort of prioritize pleasure in my life, and learn how to really sort of like I think about how sometimes we would never think about giving the keys to a car to someone who didn't know how to drive. But we do that with our bodies all the time. We're like, you're sexy. Here, you can have my body to do things with, without like telling them how and what we like and when we like it and when it changes if we like that. And so I've learned all that stuff. And I think the reason that I stay involved in sexological bodywork is it's not one of those professions that you like go off and study and then you've got it kind of thing. It's like, to be a good sexological bodyworker, to be a good somatic sex educator, you really need to stay on top of our stuff. Like, we really need to notice where shame is crept back into our lives. Notice where we're, maybe our masturbation habits are really, really entrenched again, and how can we expand out of that? How can we, do some more orgasmic yoga, right? So yeah, it's just sort of an ever unfolding process, and it's really helped me to look up my own things that were traumatizing in my life and break some patterns. And for me, it's not like teach what I'm an expert at. It's it's like teaching what I need to continually learn over and over again. And the people that are attracted to this profession just continually blow my mind. Most amazing, grounded, like edge walking, smart people. So that's why I keep staying involved.
Beautiful. Yeah, one of the biggest things that I got from sexological bodywork was the term orgasmic yoga, and that's what my second book is based on. And it really changed my life, because I think as a Asian, I'm brought up in a very kind of repressed society. I really didn't see. I was comfortable enough with that, my sexuality is an important part of myself, but I really didn't give it that much attention to pleasure. And really, the concept of orgasmic yoga really changed everything for me, because there is no limit to the amount of pleasure we can have in our lives. And Sexpot really shifted things in it's not just an intellectual, but really in your body. And I guess that's why you love it and why you're teaching it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything else about Sexpot that you want to talk about or shout out to listeners out there?
One of my co-teachers, Kath and Jesse, has written a really great book. Mm-hmm. And of course, right at this moment, I can't remember what it's called. Erotic Massage for Healing and something. Anyway, Kath and Jesse, and it's if you want to learn more about sexological bodywork, that's definitely one place to go. And also, the founder of all of this fabulous Sexological Bodywork, and the founder of Body Electric, Joseph Kramer, his website, the New School of Erotic Touch, is another place to go to get more information. But there's trainings all over the world. All of them are. We all have to have sort of like the basic curriculum, and as long as we do that part, we can bring in other pieces that we're excited about or are more important in our local areas, or are more important to the people in the class. So the trainings are diverse, but you get sort of all of the basics. So.
Yeah. So next week I'm going to be doing the show from Australia, Sydney, and I'll be going to attend the Really Good Sex Festival, and Deej will be there, and Joseph Kramer will be there. So I'm really looking forward to meeting them. I haven't seen them for years.
Yay, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Please send my love.
Yes, definitely. So we have 3 more minutes to break. Is there anything else you like to talk about? I actually really want to ask you very quickly what you see as the link between sexuality and spirituality.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking that. I don't even think there's a link. I mean, I think they're the same. I think they might be one side of the same coin. For me at least, they are like intricately interwoven together. Good, like sex is life force energy, spirit is life force energy. I'm not saying that you can't have unspiritual sex or spirituality without sex, but the very best sexual moments of my life have also been very, very spiritual moments. And I think the mashup and the dance and of eros and pleasure and sex and ecstasy have all been sexual experiences and erotic experiences in my life.
So can you elaborate a little bit more, like what happens when you have unspiritual sex? Is that still spiritual even though it feels unspiritual?
Great question. I would never claim to tell people like that their sex was a certain thing or another thing. So, I can only sort of speak from my experience, but, as someone who is, as a, an active member of the reclaiming pagan and witchy tradition, and really, centered in earth-based spirituality, the life force being, not just from humans, but also being all around us all the time. I really feel that there's like ways we can really, really expand into not just the energy that's coming from our genitals, right? So there's so much more that I think we're just beginning to maybe remember that maybe our ancestors knew before about ecstasy and eros and our relationship to nature.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I love what you're saying, that we can expand energy from beyond genitals. And we'll talk more with Captain after this break.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she's feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. We are into the last 15 minutes of our show, and I am with Dr. Liam Captain Snowdon, and he actually writes his name, or spells his name, in small caps, Captain. And I was just wondering why. So you can also check out his website, captainsnowdon.ca, and also his other website, which is somaticsexeducation.ca. And you definitely want to check out more about SexBot, even if you're not planning to attend the training. There's lots of books and materials out there talking about sexological bodywork, including my second book, Orgasmic Yoga. So, Captain, you got my book, Orgasmic Yoga. What did you think of it?
I love it. Yeah, I wanted to put a plug in for it. I think it is like a really great way for people to start thinking outside of the box about ways that they can work and play with their own sexual energy in ways that we're just not taught to do it. So I think it's like a great book to like fold, and not everybody likes to fold up books, but I like to like fold up a book and put it in my back pocket, and travel around with it and kind of read it wherever I am and have it sort of inform everything I'm doing for a while. It feels like that kind of book to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. So just to make sure that I don't miss out on this, the Captain does work with people online, face-to-face, and in groups. So these are some ways that you can engage with him. He lives in Victoria, Canada, and he runs SPARC. That's a sex-positive art and recreation center for the last 7 years in Canada. What can I say? One of the things when I went to the Institute was I met all these people who have different kinds of sexuality than me, and who are just different from me. I consider myself very vanilla, and I met classmates who were identified as gays, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, poly, and it was really an eye-opener. You don't realize what you don't know until you know. And you were one of the people that really influenced and shaped my thinking, because you were transitioning at that time. And so tell us a little bit how your gender journey has affected your erotic journey.
Awesome question. So some of it's really, really hard to pull apart. But definitely at the time we met, I'd spent about a decade living in what looked like a female body and insisting to people that they use male pronouns for me, and working in a job that they only hired gay men for. So really sort of living and walking, between the worlds, and insisting that I was seen and treated in a certain way. And I think around the time I went to school, I started feeling more like I wanted to have chest surgery or get my breasts removed, and sometime later decided I would try testosterone. It wasn't a quick process, and there was a lot of thought put into all of it. But I think some of the more entertaining things was like I was in school studying sex. Mm-hmm. Full time, living in San Francisco, which is, probably, other than Amsterdam or some other places that I haven't been, probably like the greatest places to study sex, because, you can read about something during the day and then probably go out and find someone to do it with that night. So I'm in school studying sex. I'm in San Francisco. I've started taking testosterone into my body. So people ask me, so how does your gender journey change your sexuality? I'm like, I don't know. I was getting good sex education at the time. I was being incredibly sexually explorative, and I had a whole bunch of testosterone running through my veins. So, it was definitely a time of being like, oh my gosh, this is what boys go through. This is what is running through their body. At those young ages, and they have to find ways to cope dealing with it. I could barely cope with it when, I was in my 30s. So, it was an intense time where I would, kind of look at a chair and think it was sexy, and be like, oh, look at that chair, I'm really interested in it. I'm like, it's a chair. I wanted to kind of eat everything, have sex with everything, and like run really hard. And it all mellowed out after a while, but it was a really interesting thing to be doing while I was sort of getting a better sex education. But I think my gender journey, just really like it really, my continuing gender journey helps me just understand how many different ways there are to be in the world around sex and gender, and how they're all just really should be all just really, really welcomed, and people should be given love around all of the ways that we don't even know there is to be in the world yet. I think that's probably the biggest piece around it.
Yeah, I remember you were sharing about how the testosterone was really affecting your libido and your sex drive, and then you were actually, I remember you talking about the chair, how you wanted to hump the chair, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea about the male-female differences, because I am in a female body, and I never really understood how different men were until you talked about the testosterone. And then I was like, okay, so the hormones really changes our brains and our behavior. That was a big piece for me.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to like. What I'm willing to say is that having testosterone put in my body made me act differently. Like, I don't know what it's like for other people, but it was cuckoo bananas for a while in there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I feel it's sometimes very sensitive to talk to people who are transgender. I don't really know whether they are willing to talk about it, and whether, I'm also worried sometimes I use the wrong pronoun and then I insult them. Do you have anything to say about this?
I think like a genuine curiosity about people in life is a really great thing. I think asking people if they're willing to talk about things is a thing that I often do. And I think like educating ourselves a whole lot before we expect the person that is the thing, the thing, I don't mean to say the thing, but is the person of that topic. Cause we get awfully tired of educating people about who we are. And sometimes we're not tired and sometimes we are. So like definitely asking about pronouns, like, what pronoun do you prefer? Also, I've heard lots of people say like what I'm going for is pretty obvious. Like if I'm like dressed a certain way and it looks like I'm trying to be a something, that's probably what I'm headed towards. And so it's complicated, and again, like we make mistakes. And it can be messy, and and I think the other thing is like thinking about. Well, when I talk to my friends who have been pregnant, they sort of talk about it. I find that I hear this piece around. As soon as you show when you're pregnant, the world thinks they can put their hands on your body and tell you what to do, and how to raise your child and what to do with your body.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, your body is public property, and which is, a similar experience that myself and a lot of my trans and genderqueer friends have had. Is like, as soon as somebody finds out you're trans, they're like, oh, have you had surgery? What's in your pants? But like all these personal questions become allowed to be asked. So I really think that like we can think about that before we start asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been guilty of it.
Hey, we all make a mess.
I know. I go up to like a transgender person who's had surgery and like, do you mind? You're okay? Like, can I see your parts? And, sometimes they say in a nice way, and then later I realize how offensive it must have sounded to them. So I don't do that anymore.
So you learned. Yay. Awesome.
Yes, I learned. So you mentioned that you have a poem for us?
I do. I'd like to just read this poem that's about like earth-based spirituality and sex.
Yes, please.
As a way to sort of close the show. I feel really, really honored that you asked me to be on the show. This is a awful lot of fun to be with you again in this way. And so this poem is called The Holy Body Poem, and it was written for a film made by a friend of mine, a fabulous sexological bodyworker named Pavani More. The film is called Holy MILF, Holy Mother I'd Like to Fuck. So, and this poem is an invocation to the elements. So it's called the Holy Body Poem. Air, I need to feel you, suck you from my lover's mouth, and then fill them up again with you. Air, suspire away my shame as I contain you until it's almost too late, then release. Air, let's re-spirit together. Let's gasp, let's gulp, let's giggle. Let's snore, let's sneeze, let's snort, let's sniffle. Air, with you I pant, I whisper, and I heave. Guardians of the watchtowers of the east, feel our body prayers of bliss and resistance. Know we conspire to respire with you. Air, help me catch my breath. Fire, I need you. I need you to feel my heat, my friction, the friction of bark on skin, on sand on skin, on fur on skin. Fire, let's snap, let's crackle, and let's pop, my desire, before breakfast, at the rest area, with a hot being in my mouth, in this room right now. Fire, teach me of your ways to burn and fuck, spark, flame, fire, embers, ashes. Guardians of the watchtowers of the south, feel our body prayers ablaze with glitter and irreverence. Know we alight to insurrection with you. Water, I need you in all your forms of dripping disambiguation. Water, let's drool, let's splash, let's spray, let's